Well, it was after the Seth Material started, and this whole thing, before I'd realized that people, you might use them or think of them as symbols, or you might, no matter how you relate to them, they have their own fantastic individuality. And whenever any beliefs, even our own, blind you to that, you have lost. Whenever you relate to someone as simply a belief, or you get your back up and you don't see their reality, then we've won. We'll bring you closer to people. It will not divide you. If it divides you, that is not what it is. I bid you good evening.
How's it going?
Good evening.
And understand your responses to our friend here. For when he speaks, you fear the vocabulary, because you fear the beliefs that you still are afraid operate. You are afraid that after all, for all of your hard-earned knowledge, the others are right. You are not sure of your position, and therefore you must defend it with a great vehemence. You sinned in our well-meaning and beautiful friend. Those are beliefs against which you yourselves have fought for so long. And you are afraid that in your heart of hearts you do not trust the joyful integrity of your own being. You are afraid that after all the old stories may be correct and there is something wrong in your creaturehood. That you are after all put down because you are human, and that you are after all damned because you are what you are, and that no matter what you say or do, you are originally in one way or another damned. You are afraid because our friend Andy is so sincere and so intent that after all, what he unconsciously feels and what sometimes comes through in his talk is right after all. You must ascend meaning that there is something wrong with where you are and what you are. Now, in those terms, what you want to be is within you now, and within your glowing creaturehood. As he tried to say, there is no above or below. You are blessed because of your being, not damned because of it. As I have told you often, there is a spiritual biology within your being, and it speaks through each of your moments and through your sexual experiences It speaks when you drink a glass of water, or when you wiggle your foot. That is also a highly biological nature to your spirituality. Your atoms and your molecules and your cells know themselves to be part of all that is. They do not question. That does not mean that there is anything wrong with questioning. It does mean that I say to you that you are blessed because you are that your spirituality is known through the glories of your flesh, and that your flesh becomes more spiritual because of its existence through the seasons and its experience with the time that you know and recognize. You form your own reality. I say this to you each week. Yet through your own dream experiences and through the suggestions that I will give you, that I hope that you will follow, you will be able to discover this for yourselves. What I hope to be able to show you the different levels of consciousness in which you dwell. Again, as I have said before, you are indeed given the gift of the gods. You form your reality. What better gift could be given to you? How then could you imagine that you began this present excursion into this current life already damned, flawed, or forsaken? If each of you would simply listen in the quiet of your own mind to the music of your own cells, you would know that the atoms within you speak with a joyful exultation. Those atoms and molecules, luckily, have not read many of the books that you have read, and they do not read your newspapers. They know that they are blessed because they are. They know if some of you are more serious people will forgive me, and I close my eyes so as not to embarrass you. They know that existence is fun. They realize that fun is good and joyful, and that the gods play. They recognize that through expressing their own reality, they form these atoms and molecules and cells, the reality that you think of as a physical body. The atoms within your toe do not stop and say, oh, I must be a responsible and sober and form this toe, and I must think very carefully before I move, because after all, I am damned to begin with. You would have a summer toe. Now I return you to your class and to yourselves. Paul. Oh, great. We're going to have a break shortly, but I want to know what your being is important. The fact that you are, my friend, impresses the universe, and that impression is never lost. That impression lives in your terms, though time itself is forgotten and dies. Your being as it is important. And whatever you do, it is not trivial. When you realize that your being is important, then you will realize that by being yourself, you will do in your terms important things you cannot do otherwise. Now we are here a small group, and you meet with yourself and with me, many of you, weekly, in an intimate relationship. There are those who will listen to me speak. And I believe that you are there, audience, though I cannot see you. You are quite invisible to me. You can see the people in this room, and so you believe in their existence, but they cannot see you. And yet they believe in your existence. We then ask you to realize that though we cannot see you, we agree that you exist. I am sure that you do not need our agreement. Nevertheless, we all ask you to realize that when you look in the mirror, you see images of yourself. But you do not perceive the inner self that you know exists. And so each of us here asks each of you to realize that you have an inner identity that you cannot physically perceive, and an inner voice that you do not hear with your ears. Each of us here therefore asks you to admit the validity of your own being, to enjoy the being that you see and feel and touch, and yet to realize that you have still greater vitality
and reality. We ask you, in the most scandalous manner possible, to realize one thing, that you are good, that you are blessed, and that there is nothing wrong with you. Now there are many levels of consciousness and awareness, and there are ways that things are said and unsaid. There are gestalts or families of consciousness. Each of you belong to such families. You are yourselves. Yet as you have physical families, you have families of consciousness. So most of the people in this room belong to a family called samadhi. And you give the message to yourself, for you are the message. The medium is not the message. You are the message. If only we can show you yourselves enough, then you will trust yourselves enough to explore those dimensions of your own greater reality that no one else can ever know or ever explore. There are journeys of consciousness that no one can take but you. And yet as you take them, you take steps in other terms for others. And you leave marks for your brothers and sisters to follow in their own explorations. Cards that say, I have been here, the place is safe, I leave you a sign of peace. Your being alone is important and has a validity beyond any philosophy. That is the message that you are trying to give to yourself. You are each trying to rediscover for yourselves in your terms now, after centuries of myths and distortions, the validity of your own beings. I ask you not to trust the validity of my being, which is none of your concern, but to trust the validity of your being, which is very much of your concern. Now, class members here know what I am doing. I ask you then to sense the energy in this voice and know that it is your own joyful vitality. I ask you to feel it and enjoy it as your own. And those who may they view this class, I request that you also feel the energy of your being and know that this voice is but a dim echo of that vitality and validity that is your own. And therefore we leave this esoteric class and return you to the selves that you think that you know. You may find yourself with a random thought that does not seem to fit in with what you are doing or thinking at the time, and so you dismiss it. It seems random because it does not appear to fit in with your organized picture of reality, but it is an important mosaic that you throw away. So I also joyfully and playfully and creatively challenge each of you, even Dorothy boy over here, to become more and more aware of your waking experience and of those stray thoughts that come in your terms like thieves in the night. They are not official. You do not accept them. The intellect says, oh no. Listen to those thoughts. Open your mind a mite further. In your ordinary waking life, in the middle of your ordinary pursuits, and see what miracles are there. And I say miracles. Miracles because they can help transform your own understanding and your own reality. And you have been blind to them because you fear you will lose your identity. Your identity instead, you see, can grow and include such experiences. Now I told you that class was quickening, so the time is ripe for each of you. So this week particularly, beside the suggestions that I gave, be gentle with your own experience. Do not be such a disciplinarian that when stray thoughts or intuitions come to you, you dismiss them. The fields of your own beings are filled with flowers that you do not recognize. You do not stop to look at them or smell their odors. They are not official flowers or official fruit. Sometimes you try to be too practical. You have lovely eyes. Those eyes do not try to be practical. They see out of the joy of their being. They do not hustle themselves. The right eye does not say, is what I am seeing right, and the left eye does not say is what I am seeing wrong. They see together, and in being themselves, they see for you. For the atoms within your eyes do not see this image though you do. You interpret the image and you see what you see. The eye's vision, the reality of the atoms and molecules that exist within the eye, that vision is far different. And yet there is no disagreement. So there is no disagreement between your official reality and those unofficial realities that sometimes sneak through.
I'm out. Camera? Light?
Yeah, it's all
action.
Right.
Hi, people!
And you are afraid because our friend Andy is so sincere and so intent that after all, what he unconsciously feels and what sometimes comes through in his talk is right after all. You must ascend meaning that there is something wrong with where your responses to our friend here. For when he speaks, you fear the vocabulary, because you fear the beliefs that you still are afraid operate. You are afraid that after all, for all of your hard-earned...
Well, it was after the Seth Material started, and this whole thing, before I'd realized that people, you might use them or think of them as symbols, or you might, no matter how you relate to them, they have their own fantastic individuality. And whenever any beliefs, even our own, blind you to that, you have lost. Whenever you relate to someone as simply a belief, or you get your back up and you don't see their reality, then we've won. We'll bring you closer to people. It will not divide you. If it divides you, that is not what it is. I bid you good evening.
How's it going?
Good evening. And understand of your own being. You are afraid that after all, the old stories may be correct, and there is something wrong in your creaturehood. That you are, after all, put down because you are human, and that you are, after all, damned because you are what you are, and that no matter what you say or do, you are originally, in one way or another, knowledge. are right. You are not sure of your position, and therefore you must defend it with a great vehemence. You sinned in our well-meaning and beautiful friend. Those are beliefs against which you yourselves have fought for so long. And you are afraid that in your heart of hearts you do not trust the joyful integrity